Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to another lesson. This is Qaida Noorania lesson 11. Specifically, this is page 2, and inshallah, what I did was by accident I recorded page 3 before I recorded page 2. So I'm going to upload both those videos, one after the other, and I will title the videos correctly. But I basically last week I recorded page 3 instead of page 2, and that's where I messed up. So that's why I'm going to upload page 2 and page 3 together at the same time. But they're going to be in separate videos. So inshallah, this will help you out. So in our lesson that we're doing, which is the sukoon lesson, we went into the details of sukoon and qalqalah. And inshallah, today, wherever we see a sukoon letter and wherever we see a qalqalah letter, I'll point those out. And today we're going to focus on that on page 2 of Qaida Noorania lesson 11. So let's get started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Zoom this in a little bit. Before we begin, I wanted to bring your attention to a particular characteristic of Qaida Noorania. In Qaida Noorania, this is noon sakina, and this is also noon sakin, noon and with a sukoon on it, and this is also noon with a sukoon on it. But I just want you to notice that this noon with the sukoon and this noon with the sukoon are written in different colors. This is regular color, and this is written in red color. When I come to this word right here, the one that my mouse is hovering over right now, I will inshallah let you know why this is written in red and why this one is written regular. But I want you to know that inshallah, when we cover ahkam an-nun as-sakina wa tanween, the reason it's done this way is this noon sakin is done with idhar, or we're showing the noon, and this is done with ikhfaa, or we're hiding the noon. And you will see what it sounds like, what it sounds like when I go over both of these words. So let's get started. What I'm going to do first is, just as a special exercise, I'm going to do this word, which is one har, and this word shara, and you will hear the difference between hiding and showing the noon. So let's get started. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Waw fatha noon sukoon 1. Ha fatha ra sukoon har 1 har. Now notice I made emphasis and I showed the noon. I said 1 har. And next I'm going to show you this word right here. And the word is Hamza fatha noon sukoon Sheen fatha sha sha Ra fatha ra shara. Now notice on this noon I hid the noon. I held it in my nose a little bit and I said shara. I didn't say anshara. I said shara. Notice I extended the noon and I held it in my nose a little bit. This is called ikhfaa, or hiding. And this is one of the characteristics of noon sakin. So whenever you see a noon in Qaida Noorania, especially in this exercise, that is written in red, we're going to hide the noon. We're going to nasalize it and we're going to hold it in our nose a little bit. And we're going to say We're not going to say We're not going to pronounce it. We're not going to show it. We're going to hide it. And this red, whenever the noon is red, we're going to inshallah do what is known as ikhfaa. Now the details of ikhfaa versus idhar, what they mean, and the 4 letters ikhfaa, idhar, idgham, iqlab, we will go into when we cover ahkam an-nun as-sakina wa tanween in a later video. But I just wanted to give you that. So this word is 1 har. In this one, we're not going to hide the noon. We're going to show the noon. So again, the word is waw fatha noon sukoon 1. Ha fatha ra sukoon har 1 har. Notice I didn't hide the noon. I presented the noon. I fully pronounced the noon, and this word is 1 har. Now this hamzatul wasl, just remember in our previous exercises, whenever a fatha letter is followed by a noon, any sukoon letter, the hamzatul wasl in the middle gets cancelled. Inshallah, we will cover a lot more detail of hamzatul wasl in a later video, inshallah. Moving on. Hamza fatha kha sukoon akh. Ra fatha ra. أخرى. جيم فتحة جا. أخرج. همزة فتحة را سكون أر. سين فتحة س. أرس. لام فتحة لا. أرسل. همزة فتحة غين سكون أو. طا فتحة طا. أو طا. شين فتحة شا. أو طش. همزة فتحة فا سكون أف. لام فتحة لا. أفلا. حا فتحة حا. أفلح. That's the end of our first line. Moving on to the second. همزة فتحة كاف سكون أك. را فتحة را. أكرا. ميم فتحة ما. أكرم. همزة فتحة لام سكون ال. ها فتحة ها. أله. ميم فتحة ما. ألهم. Oops, I zoomed in a little too much there. My apologies. Oops, again. There. Now this is, again, I'll do this word again so that this noon sukoon, because it's in red, we're going to hide it and we're going to hold it in our nose a little bit. And we will cover ahkam noon sakina wa tanween in a later video. But just remember, whenever we see in Qaida Noorania noon written in red, we're going to hide it. We're going to hold it in our nose a little bit like this. Hamza fatha noon sukoon an. Sheen fatha sha. أنشا. را فتحة را. أنشارا. Another example of the same. همزة فتحة نون سكون أن. قاف فتحة قا. أنقا. ضاد فتحة ضا. أنقضا. Again, I held the noon in my nose a little bit, extended it. This is called hiding or ikhfaa. أنقضا. Remember, whenever noon is written in Qaida Noorania, is because it's ikhfaa. We're going to hold it like that in our nose. Now, the ahkam, or why that is, we're going to cover that later, inshallah. Dal fatha mim sukoon dam. Dal fatha da. Dam da. Mim fatha ma. Dam dama. That's the end of our second line. Moving on to the third. Ain fatha sin sukoon as. Ain fatha a. As'a. Sin fatha sa. As'asa. همزة فتحة عين سكون أع. با ضم بو. أعبو. دال ضم دو. أعبدو. So in the pauses that I'm providing, go ahead, follow along. Pronounce it yourself as well. Just like I'm spelling it out, spell it out. Just like I'm pronouncing it out, pronounce it out. Noon fatha ain sukoon na. Ba dhamma bu. Na bu. Dal dhamma du. Na'budu. Ya fatha kha sukoon yah. Ra dhamma ru. Yakhru. Jim dhamma ju. Yakhruju. Ya fatha ha sukoon yah. Sin fatha sa. Yahsa. Ba dhamma bu. Yahsabu. Ya fatha shin sukoon yash. Ra fatha ra. Yashra. Ba dhamma bu. Yashrabu. Ya fatha shin sukoon yash. Ha fatha ha. Yashha. Dal dhamma du. Yashhadu. Ta fatha ra sukoon tar. Ha fatha ha. Tarha. Qaf dhamma qu. Tarhaqu. Now, I want you to hear the difference between this ra, ta, fatha, ra, sukoon, tar. Now, if you remember in a previous video, I remember when I mentioned tafkhim and tarqiq, making heavy and making light. Whenever a ra sukoon, it's being combined with a letter with a fatha on it, it's going to be heavy. Inshallah, we'll cover more details on tafkhim and tarqiq in a later video. But I just want you to listen to the difference between the ra and pronouncing in this word and then the next word, and then I will pronounce these two words without spelling them out, and you will hopefully hear the difference. This ra I'm going to pronounce heavy, and this ra I'm going to pronounce light. Ta fatha ain sukoon ta. Ra kasrari. Ta'ri. Fa dhamma fu. Ta'rifu. So this is tarhaqu. Ta'rifu. Tarhaqu. Ta'rifu. This is tar, ra, ra, ra. This is ta'ri, ri, ri. Ta'rifu. 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 I hope you're hearing the difference. This ra is pronounced heavy. This ra is pronounced light. This ha has tafkhim. This ra has tarqiq. Inshallah, we'll cover the details of that in a later video. Okay. We have our first sukoon with qaf. This is, if you remember in the lesson, this is one of the 5 qalqalah letters. And this is why in the Qaida Noorania, when the qalqalah letters come with the sukoon on them, they are written in green, letting you know that you have to bounce the sound, or you have to do qalqalah. So let's do that. Hamza dhamma qaf sukoon uq. Sin kasra si. Uqsi. Mim dhamma mu. Uqsimu. We have another qalqalah letter. This is ba sukoon, and we have to bounce the sound of the ba as well. So I'll pronounce that. Ya dhamma ba sukoon yub. Dal kasradi yubdi. Hamza dhamma u yubdi'u. We have another noon sukoon, and this noon sukoon is followed by one of the letters of ikhfaa. So therefore we have to do ikhfaa on this. Just remember Qaida Noorania, ikhfaa on the noon sakin is denoted when it's a red. The noon is red, so we're going to hide this noon. So we're going to pronounce it like this. Ya dhamma noon sukoon yun. Fa fatha fa yunfa. Kha dhamma khu yunfakhu. Ya fatha noon sukoon yan. Qaf fatha qa yanqa. Lam kasra li yanqali. Ba dhamma bu yanqalibu. Ya dhamma yu. Waw fatha sin sukoon was yuwas. Waw kasra wi yuwaswi. Sin dhamma su yuwaswisu. Tha fatha tha. Qaf dhamma qu thaqu. Lam fatha ta sukoon lat thaqulat. Ha dhamma hu. Shin kasra shi hushi. Ra fatha ta sukoon rat hushirat. Sin dhamma su. Ta kasrati suti. Ha fatha ta sukoon hat sutihat. Kaf dhamma ku. Shin kasra shi kushi. Ta fatha ta sukoon tat kushitat. Now this is slightly difficult for beginners. Ta, if you remember from an introduction that I provided to tafkhim and tarqiq in a previous video, ta is one of Sa, Da, Ta, Wa, Ain, Kha, and Qaf is one of the letters of tafkhim. It's heavy, but Ta is not. You are combining a heavy letter with a light letter, but Ta and Ta, they are kind of similar in their sound, except that the Ta has tafkhim. It's heavy. The Ta does not. This is Ta and this is Ta. Ta and Ta. So this is Ta fatha ta sukun. This syllable is difficult for beginners to pronounce. This is tot, 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 tot. So it's gonna be hard for you to pronounce. It's okay. It'll take some practice. It took me a while. But the word is kushitat, ta, and then ta. Kushitat, Whoops. كشطت. كشطت. So switching from heaviness to lightness gets hard for beginners, but inshallah, if you keep pronouncing it, keep practicing it, it'll become easy. كشطت. طت. This is طت. طا فتحة سكون. طت. Here's another example of tafkhim immediately followed by tarqiq. This is ra fatha, and ra fatha has to be heavy. If you remember from the tafkhim tarqiq introduction I provided earlier, we'll go into details later. This word is nun dhamma nu, sheen kasra shi, nushi, ra fatha ta sukun, rat, nushirat. So the ra is heavy, the ta is light. Ra fatha ta sukun, rat, nushi, rat. نشرت. نشرت. Okay. نون ضمة نو, صاد كسرة صي, نصي. با فتحة تا سكون بت, نصيبت. همزة فتحة أ, ثا فتحة را سكون ثر, أثر. نون فتحة ن, أثرن. Next we have another qalqalah letter. This is ta sukoon. So this is how it's done. واو فتحة و, سين فتحة طا سكون سط, وسط. نون فتحة ن, وسطن. This is why this ta is done in green. وسطن. The ta has to be bounced. If you want, you can go back to the sukoon lesson and revise what is qalqalah, and if you want, you can hear the difference. I dedicate a section of the video on how qalqalah is done, and if you want to hear the difference between doing the qalqalah and not doing the qalqalah and what the mistake is, you can see that as well. Next we have fa fatha fa, ra fatha ghain sukoon ra, فرو. تا فتحة تا, فرغت. تا فتحة همزة سكون تا, تا ضمة واو سكون تو, تأتو. نون فتحة ن, تأتون. Now if you remember, this is one of the huruf al-mad because it is a dhamma letter immediately followed by a waw sukoon, so it's one of the letters of mad. So if you want, you can go back. Mad tabi'i, I believe it's in diacritical marks section 2, lesson 3, I believe, or actually might be lesson 4, I don't remember. But mad tabi'i, if you want, you can go back to the lesson plan and go back to the channel, and I go over the dhamma letter followed by immediately by a waw sukoon. This is one of the examples of mad tabi'i. This is, the word is ta'tuna. Ta'tuna. Okay, moving on to the next line. Ya dhamma sin sukoon yus. قاف فتحة واو سكون قو, يسقوا. نون فتحة ن, يسقون. Now this is the genius of Qaida Noorania. What Qaida Noorania does is slowly introduce the lessons you have previously learned and incorporates them into new lessons. So we have been learning about seen sukoon, right? And the sukoon, or the sukoon specifically. Now, if you remember in the previous lesson, we had went over what is called huruful lin. Fatha followed by a waw sukoon, a maftuha letter followed by a waw sukoon, or a maftuha letter followed by a ya sukoon is known as a one of the huruful lin. So this is qaf maftuha, this is qaf fatha, also known as qaf maftuha, followed by a waw sukoon. This is one of the huruful lin. So qaf fatha waw sukoon qaw, yusqaw, noon fathana, yusqawna. And it will slowly incorporate. Qaida Noorania will slowly incorporate previous lessons into new lessons. And one thing I would recommend, even though you've seen the Qaida Noorania videos, go back, watch them again, and do Qaida Noorania over and over and over again. It'll really, really, really help you, get your skills to a razor thin edge, inshallah. Next we have Ya Fatha Fa Sukoon Yaf, Ain Fatha Yaf'a, Lam Dhamma Waw Sukoon Lu, Yaf'alu, Noon Fathana, Yaf'aluna. Ya Fatha Ain Sukoon Ya, Mim Fatha Ma, Ya'ma, Lam Dhamma Waw Sukoon Lu, Ya'malu, Noon Fathana, Ya'maluna. Now here's another beautiful example of Qaida Noorania, combining a slightly difficult concept together. This word, these two words, look identical, but they're not. This is Ya'maluna, and this is Ya'lamuna. Ya'maluna, Ya'lamuna. And these two, and you will see, as you do this over and over again, you'll think this is slightly tricky, but you have to get proficient at this. So inshallah, the next word, I will not spell it out for you. I want you to do it yourself. This is Ya'maluna, and this is Ya'lamuna, almost identically spelled. Almost, because the difference is the switching of the meme and the lam. They're switched. Ya'maluna and Ya'lamuna. So I want you to pronounce this word and spell this word out for yourself and see if you can do it. See if you can do it. Inshallah, it'll be easy because this one is almost identical to this one, but the only difference is the lam and the meme are switched. See if you can do that yourself. You already know how it's pronounced. This is Ya'maluna. This is Ya'lamuna. Okay? Almost at the end. Ya Fatha Dad Sukoon Yad. Ha Fatha Ha Yadha. Kaf Dhamma Waw Sukoon Ku Yadhaku. Noon Fathana Yadhakuna. Ya Fatha Kaf Sukoon Yak, Sin Kasrasi Yaksi. Ba Dhamma Waw Sukoon Bu Yaksibu. Noon Fathana Yaksibuna. Next we have another qalqalah letter. This dal sukoon has to be bounced. Ya fatha dal sukoon yad. Kha dhamma khu yadkhu. Lam dhamma waw sukoon lu yadkhulu. Noon fathana yadkhuluna. Next we have another noon sakin followed by one of the letters of ikhfaa. And because this noon sakin is red, we're going to hide it in our nose. And this is how we're going to pronounce it. Ya fatha noon sukoon ya. Wa damawu yanwu. Ra dhamma waw sukoon ru yanzuru. Noon fathana yanzuruna. And we're on the last line. Ta fatha ain sukoon ta. Ba dhamma bu ta'bu. Dal dhamma waw sukoon du ta'budu. Noon fathana ta'buduna. Okay. Now we have another example of noon sukoon, but this noon sukoon is followed by one of the letters of idhar. This is a idhar letter. We will go into that later. But whenever you see a noon sukoon that isn't read in Qaida Noorania, we're not going to hide it. We're going to show it. We're going to fully show the noon. We're going to fully pronounce the noon. This is how we're going to do it. Hamza fatha noon sukoon an. Ain fatha mim sukoon am. An'am. Ta fathata an'amta. This next one, because this is noon sakin followed by one of the letters of ikhfaa, we're going to hide this noon because it's also red. Hamza fatha noon sukoon an. Dhal fatha ra sukoon dhar. Anzar. Noon fatha alif sukoon na. Anzarna. This is noon sakin. Because it's red, we're going to hide it. Anzarna. Anzarna. This noon has to be hidden in your nose. Next we have another example of noon sakin that has to be hidden. Hamza fatha noon sukoon an. Za fatha lam sukoon zal. Anzal. Noon fatha alif sukoon na. Anzalna. Kha fatha kha. Lam fatha qaf sukoon laqo. Khalaqo. Noon fatha alif sukoon na. Khalaqona. Okay, that brings to conclusion our video for today. Today I did page 2, and because I messed up, I was supposed to do page 3 today, but because I messed up, in the previous week I actually did page 3 of this lesson, which I wasn't supposed to do. I did it out of order, so forgive me for that. But I will upload this video, page 2, and then I will upload page 3. So inshallah, I will upload both these videos one after the other. Jazakallah khair for watching. Inshallah, I will see you next time when I will cover the final page, or page 4 of lesson 11 of Qaida Noorania, and that should take care of the Qaida Noorania part of the lesson plan, of the exercise videos rather. And inshallah, immediately following that, I will do a lot of examples that I have picked out from the Quran myself, and a exercise supplement video. And then we will do after the exercise supplement video, we'll do a couple of examples. We will open the Mus'haf directly, and inshallah, we will try to pronounce some of the words out directly in the Mus'haf. Jazakallah khair for watching. Inshallah, I will see you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.